Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a continuation of Purple Stream. I'm actually a minute early, but Jenny and I were both ready, so I decided, what the heck, we'll go ahead and start a minute early. For those of you who are going from stream to stream, welcome. And for those of you that have joined just for this stream, welcome as well. Jenny is here primarily because I do not like to monologue. And I so appreciate Jenny coming and being someone that I can have a sounding board with. Welcome, Jenny.
But what? Oh, is it time?
Pinned in the chat is the link for the next stream. So when the hour is up, the next stream is Nick Suter's stream. So at the end of this stream, if you want to follow to the next stream, that's the next one. And first of all, just want to say hello to everyone. In the chat, I see Fred Harvey and Liam Wakefield. Hello to both of you, and Merry Christmas, and Ryan Donovan. Happy Hanukkah, heathens greetings, or whatever it is that you might be celebrating today. And if you're not celebrating anything, that's all the better. Okay, Steph is here. Hello there. Okay, what I have for you today is Robin lives in Auburn, and there's this old man that writes tracts and goes out and distributes them on the streets. And some of them are pretty doggone funny. His grammar is terrible. His spelling is not that good. And his tracts don't always make sense. And so whenever Robin sees him on the street, Robin runs to go get one. And one thing that's kind of funny is Robin works at Domino's Pizza. And sometimes Robin will go dashing out the door of the store to go grab one of this guy's tracts and then run back in the store. So here's probably the funniest one of all, which is called "Unforgiveness Can Hurt Without You Not Know It."
Okay, that's creative.
Okay, and here's what it says. It says, Meg kicked and fought 7 men to protect a famous person. She did it in a professional manner. Meg worked for a protective company. The company had a new project involvement to protect a young woman, Sue, who was to marry. But Sue and her father, Jim, had received several threatened letters saying Sue to not marry Pete or she will die. That was all one sentence. Also, Sue wanted protection, but she wanted the company's personal not to be shown. After much thought, they agreed for Meg to be Sue's bridesmaid, maid of honor. At first, Meg refused to be Sue's bridesmaid because Meg hated weddings, but she had to do it. Sue and Jim were very rich, and they had very lucrative contracts with Meg's company. There were 3 other bridesmaids, Beth, Mary, and Peg, all from rich families. Meg kept a close watch on Sue and Pete. Pete's best man was Fred, who was good-looking. Fred looked at Meg, who was also good-looking. But she was dedicated to her job and didn't have time except to protect Sue. One of those letters was just have time. One of those letters was just delivered saying Sue will die if she has the wedding. Quickly, Meg asked who delivered the letter. Someone said, "The man getting on the motorcycle." And Meg quickly jumped on a golf cart. And Meg chased the man on the motorcycle, and the motorcycle slipped on a fallen tree branch. How do you slip on a fallen tree branch?
I have actually done that on a motorcycle.
Oh, really?
Yes. you got to be easy on the definition of stick.
Okay.
The stick that actually dumped me off of a bike was about 3-4 inches long and not much more than 5 millimeters in diameter.
Mhm.
And I was on a hill with this big, heavy 1100 cc Beamer, and it was fall, and so there was landscaping debris everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and when I pulled up and parked, I parked right on the stick, okay, and it was laying right down the axis of the bike, right down the center, and there was a little bit of hill there, and when when you're done moving, you can relax all your muscles, and for me, I'm weak for a moment when that happens, and
Mhm.
the bike started going over, and I just could not save it. The stick
Mm.
rolled it right out from under me. It was,
Okay.
so it
So
wasn't
it
a
is
crash.
possible to slip on a stick.
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
Dan D asked, "Isn't God supposed to be protecting Sue?" I don't know. We haven't gotten to who's the godly people and who's the ungodly people yet. And left-handed Jedi asks, "What's the age of the author?" It's an old man. Okay. The man was Zeke, who Sue knew him, and he wrote all the threatened letters. Jim recognized Meg for doing such a good job catching Zeke. Everything became more relaxed, and Meg helped Sue with some of the wedding decorations. And Sue asked Meg, why was she sort of a hate weddings? Okay, that's actually in quotation marks. Why was she sort of a hate weddings? Meg said, I was to have a wedding and got to the pastor to ask her, does she take Ralph to love for the rest of his life? And I said, I do. And my fiance asked by the pastor, do you take Meg to love for the rest of her life? And Ralph became nervous and finally said no and ran away from the church. Oh, Sue said, that is awful. And in a short time, everyone was told why Meg had an awful time at weddings. That's ridiculous. Why are they going and telling her story to everybody?
That's in painting. They have, do they call it primitive? Like Grandma Moses painting back in the '60s. What we all are familiar with. That this is like kind of folksy novel or like a
Yeah,
short story.
yeah,
It's
it is.
interesting.
And left-handed Jedi, I think you are right. I do not think English is this person's first language. Oh, Purple wants a link. I'm going to go ahead and send Purple a link. There you go, Purple.
She's following me,
Oh, okay.
She's stalking my ass.
Okay, let's see. At another time, Fred, who is rich, was walking Meg, and after a short time, there were 3 gunshots. Meg ran back, and everyone was okay. Jim fired Meg for not protecting Sue. So Meg left the scene. And Meg was practicing when she remembered Fred saying to her, have you forgiven Ralph for what he did to you? Otherwise, it will haunt you. Meg found out where Ralph was, and she took a present, for he was to marry someone else soon. And she told him that she forgave him for what he did to her, and then left. It was the day of Sue's wedding, and there were many men present for protection, and not from Meg's company. Fred and Meg went to the wedding. Sue was hysterical because Meg was to be her bridesmaid. But Meg went to the bride's preparation room, and Meg walked in and was to be the bridesmaid. Everything was proceeding well, and the pastor was to ask Sue when Meg noticed the wedding cake had a fuse coming out of it. And Meg threw the top layer of the cake and shot it with her pistol and blew it up. Peg was the one that placed the bomb in the cake because she wanted the wedding stopped, because she was in love with Pete. Afterwards, the wedding took place, and Meg then told Fred that she liked him, and they were going to Florida for a vacation. The devil has many methods which he uses to try to discourage the faith of believers. But out of all of Satan's strategies, he has a favorite secret weapon, which he has which has been more effective in destroying Christians' lives than anything else in his arsenal. 2 Corinthians 2:11. Unforgiveness is the secret weapon of Satan. Joyce Meyer says, I've watched so many people that let unforgiveness just destroy their lives. I was talking to someone the other day where her ex-husband had been unfaithful to her. Well, so what? I mean, if he's her ex-husband, he doesn't owe her any faithfulness. I don't know what that's about. And it was 20 years ago? And she's let 20 years pass while unforgiving. And she looks at me and says, he ruined my life. It breaks my heart that there's someone I really love suffers because of unforgiveness. Okay. That's the whole thing.
Wow.
That's the end.
Have you read others of this guy's or?
Oh yeah, I've read a lot of them. I do find them amusing, but I don't find them quite as amusing as Robin does. So I have done a couple of them on streams, but not very many of them.
I wonder how good they'd hold up as a book.
That's not a bad idea.
I mean, I can't imagine any royalties would be very big or anything, but
no,
they're better than nothing.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Okay, this one is called Trouble Within a Family. Wen was a senior in high school, and Jay was her brother. He was beginning elementary school. Wen had recently become a Christian at SS, probably Sunday school, that a friend had invited Wen to go with her. Wen's mother, Sal, had started fussing with her, Ben. Ben was reserved, and he usually said nothing back to Sal. It got more and more fussing by Sal at Ben. Finally, Ben seemed irritated at Sal. Then one night, Sal was on the floor crying, and Ben was frustrated, and he told me to go back to bed. But Sal had called the police, and Ben was arrested. But Sal didn't make any charges, so Ben was let go. Then Sal divorced Ben. Wait, I thought these guys were in elementary school. Oh, Jay was in elementary school. Who's Jay? What did we started out with Jay and Wen in elementary school, and somehow we ended up with Ben and Sal. How are they related?
I don't know. I would have been drawing this out on a blackboard. It's really interesting. I mean, technically, I guess a lot of this is backstory for what's going to.
I'm not sure. You may need a cork board with the pins and the red string to work this all out.
I think so. The one of these that I did actually do a video on was the one where he kept writing chef instead of sheriff. And that made it so funny because part of it took place in a restaurant.
Oh,
and it was really hard to tell when he really meant the chef and when he meant the sheriff.
Oh gosh, I'm not laughing at him. I really enjoy this. I really think somebody should put together a selection and see if an agent won't even look at it. It could be one of those kitschy things that just grabs hold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, and I don't want to make fun of somebody because English isn't their first language, but if they're trying to distribute, something to the general public, then they kind of need to get somebody to proofread it.
Exactly.
No. The whole point of this is what it is by itself. The natural appearance, the natural words, nobody trying to interpret. It is just what it is. And any modification to it makes it worthless.
Okay.
Okay, so Jenny is saying we would be destroying the artistic merits of it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. The guy's got something going on that a lot of people don't, and just because he seems quite uneducated, and maybe it's just a language thing, um, doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
art, and it's
Well,
very
yeah,
valid.
I'm trying to give him that it's probably mostly a language issue.
Hmm.
That he learned English as an adult and still hasn't, quite gotten fluent in it.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
only thing, though, is if he actually intends for this to be some kind of public ministry, I don't see how anyone could actually think that this was convincing anyone of anything.
So,
What we get out of it are these stories are funny.
why do we have to get something out of them?
Well, because that's their purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a question of, is he achieving the objective that he set
Right.
out for writing this?
Right.
And part of any art, I think, is the unexpected nature of it, and just the oddity of this entire plot, and the fact that there's 100 characters, each of one developed poorly but still there. It, it has no flow. It's awful, but that's what makes it so wonderful. I would love
Mm.
to know this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, the rest of the story. Then Sal divorced Ben, and Sal took Ben to the cleaners. She received everything. She got in charge of the business. Within 4 months, Sal marries Bob. And after about 2 more months, Sal and Bob and Jay moved to a larger city. Oh, Jay finally came back to the story. Sal said that when and her friends locally, she would live with her grandfather, Sam. That was okay because she loved her granddad, Sam, and they got along well because he was a Christian too. Wen was studying her Bible and was thinking about her family. Her mother, Sal, claimed she was a Christian, but as I read here, quote, it's always to be a Christian. It is not claims of intimacy with Jesus that matter, nor is it simply good works, even miraculous ones. Only doing the will of the Father matters. 1 Corinthians 8, 2 through 3. There's no end quote here. Wen said, I will have to remember that one. It was Wen's birthday, 18 years old. Wait a minute, I thought Wen was in elementary school. Oh no,
Temporal editing.
no, actually it did say Wen was a senior in high school. Jay, her brother, was beginning elementary school. So there's a big gap in years between Wen and Jay.
Well, there is 15 years between me and my eldest brother.
There's 14 years between Robin and Robin's oldest sister. And when Robin started kindergarten, Susan was a senior in high school. Her granddad said that he was proud of her and he gave a special gift to Wen. She was very wise and can head up his company, which is very large. But Wen said she doesn't know anything about running a company. Sam said that he will give her some help. Her father, Ben, who is a Christian. That's the end of that sentence. Her father, Ben, who is a Christian. Ben will help her, but Ben did so many bad things, according to Mom, Ben said. That doesn't make any sense either. Ben will help her, but Ben did so many bad things, according to Mom, Ben said. Those are lies.
That's called sentence structure.
No, I'd say that's something that's entirely absent in this.
And Sam agreed with Ben. Your granddad hired a private detective to check on Sal. He found that Sal was having an affair with Bob several months before she filed for divorce. Also, Bob had a record of marrying rich women and through a divorce, claiming and getting a lot of her money, leaving her without. Well, Wen graduated with honors from high school and was rewarded with a scholarship from a highly rated university. When it was known that Wen was head of Sam's company, Wen's mother Sal came along with Bob to protest this change. But Sam told Sal that he owned the company and he could give it to anyone he wanted to. To is spelled wrong. And in his opinion, Wen seems the best choice. Sal asked when will she that's funny. Um, just the name and the word when are almost interchangeable there. Sal asked when will she come and live with them, and Wen said no. Then Sal said that they would have to move back to their old house. But Sam says that he owns both houses, their old house and his house, and he doesn't want Sal to live in it. And Jay can live with him. Sal says that this is not the last word about all Sam has said. Afterwards, the family consisted of Sam, Ben, Wen, and Jay, and they were having a good time together. And Wen, with Ben's help, had little trouble running the company. And Sal had the same divorce and lost her money to Bob. Okay. How do you get the same divorce? If Wen follows the scripture, she will be okay, which says, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. But Christ is the decisive factor in everything. It'll be the Lord's doing or your endeavors, or your house will be in vain. But if you lose sight of the Lord who does the work, lest it be in vain, we will either overwork or underwork, and in both cases, it leads to fretful anxiety. We're sending our children out. It's God's strategy to take on the enemies of God. Today, a central enemy in our culture is cultural Marxism, progressive. We're the enemies. We're progressives, which makes us cultural Marxists, which is rooted, oh no, in atheism.
Well, I mean, I like Mark Reed. He's a decent guy, but I wouldn't say I'm a Marxist.
And it has a strong anti family impulse. Why? Because a nuclear family, the adults in a nuclear family are married, doesn't need the government to be their big daddy. Now, all of us, or will someday, have dropped the ball in many ways as our parents. But what the gospel does, it resolves us of our guilt because Jesus took the guilt, and that's the glory of the gospel. He took the guilt away. Brother Brain. Okay. Evidently, this one was written by Brother Brain.
Is that the end?
Yep, that's the end.
You know, it seems like in a way it's not too different from some of the writing I used to do when I was a developing writer. And one of my editors explained to me what was going on in my head, and when I realized that he's right, it made a big difference in how I wrote. And that was that my mind and was writing at one speed, my hand is transcribing at another speed, and the audience isn't involved with either.
Yes.
And what he means by that is that you're getting ahead of yourself, and you're not trusting your audience or you're assuming your audience knows the backstory when they may not. You know, don't make any assumptions about what they know. And so the result was that I stopped babbling on about things. I was able to get to a point in a sentence or two instead of a paragraph or two. It was I thought a real important thing. But I'm not criticizing his. I'm just observing what it seems to be.
That's a good observation. Jester says, it's weird to me that people see moving forward as evil. Why is holding on to the past a good thing? The past is over. Embrace the future.
Well, dagnammit, if it was good enough for my grandpappy, it's good enough for you.
Oops. Fred Harvey says, We have a lot more to learn, but we've learned much in the last 2,000 years.
Yes, but we've learned even more in the past 6,000.
Just in the last 30.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I found absolutely astounding was when Susan finished her residency, she said, half of what I learned in medical school just 8 years ago is already obsolete.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was a kid, I always used to think that my grandma and grandpa, because they were born before cars, before airplanes, the streets are still filled with horse shit. I used and now even as a kid, I said, look, now we can go to the moon and all this kind of stuff. And the other day I saw a thing that reinforced this whole feeling. It was a picture of the Wright brothers in their first flight, and there's a picture of a guy on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And it said there are 66 or 62 years between these photographs. And
Okay.
Yeah.
and so I always thought my grandmas and grandpas lived in an incredible time period because of the things so dramatically changing. But
Mm-hmm.
then as an adult now, ready to jump off to the abyss, it's amazing what we've gone through. I mean, we
Yeah.
lived with crystal radios, party
Yeah.
lines, and now we can talk to anybody anywhere in the world in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so it's the time that we've been able to experience that.
It's something my grandfather used to say because he was just so in awe about how fast things were moving that he said, when I was born, cars didn't exist, and I watched a man walk on the moon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The problem was that it was the same moment in the movie, and oh, never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, but like Jenny's saying, I mean, when I was growing up in the 70s, they had the idea of phones that would have video screens, but no one would have imagined one you could carry in your pocket that would connect you with anyone anywhere in the world.
Exactly. Exactly. My grandchildren do not know a time before cell phones. And
Yeah.
when we try to tell them about that, they find that kind of hard to understand.
I have found it very hard to explain to some young people what a pager was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when cell phones were way too expensive, I had a pager so that
Mm-hmm.
my girls could call me, like, if they missed the bus or something.
Mm-hmm. I read a book once that was pre walkie-talkies and pre-radio, and it was really interesting reading about this stakeout that these detectives had. And they said, okay, we're going to be on the roof of this building and you're going to be on the roof of this building. We'll have these two guys that are runners and they will run back and forth with messages because they didn't have
Yep.
walkie-talkies. And I thought, boy, that's really weird that they had people that would physically run back and forth to transfer messages.
Well, and another one like that is, I remember a story of a stakeout, that they were sitting in the car, watching the suspect, and the best way they had to communicate was flashing their headlights in Morse code.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, I have one more to read. And this one is called The Life of a Grifted Person. I wonder if that's supposed to be a gifted person, but it really does say grifted person.
Oh, we're off to a roaring start already here.
So that's going to be the first mystery for us to solve. Do they mean grifted or gifted? As a little girl, Sarah played with dollies as patients, and she would give them medicine or treat them in some manner. When Sarah grew up and graduated from medical school, she was a gifted surgeon. Ah, they meant gifted. It was said that Sarah has golden hands. She was a Christian and gave thanks to Christ for her success as a surgeon. Bob was a successful business investor. Earlier he became a millionaire, but he had an appendicitis and Sarah had to operate on him. Sarah noted that he had beautiful blue eyes and Sarah was attractive to him. Attractive to him or attracted to him? I think they means attracted to him.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, that is what he means because the
Um,
next sentence is also he was drawn to her. As they dated, they seemed to be a natural couple, and they were married. Life was so wonderful. Sarah was in love, and she felt they would go on living in such splendor for the rest of their lives. As time went on, Bob's business consumed all his time. Sarah regretted it, but Bob felt that matters would not be as much as they are now. Okay. Sarah had policemen visit her and told her that there was an accident in which the cruise boat flipped over, and although Bob was a good swimmer, he drowned. Okay. When did Bob go on a cruise ship and why did he go without Sarah? And Sarah was left alone. She went to Bob's grave often to keep his plot well cared for. It was Sarah and Bob's third anniversary from his death. She had to go to a convention and could not titty up Bob's plot.
Oh, you hear?
I kid you not. It says titty up. It does not say tidy up. It says titty up.
So she was like flashing his gravestone every time she went there.
I think she took the dirt and formed two boobs on the gravesite. Ember says we do have to titty up in here.
well, that's what Perp's going to do.
Yep. That's my Christmas present.
Okay, let's see if I can find where I left off. Okay, here it was. She needed some help. She couldn't titty up all by herself. She needed some help. She met with the keeper of the graveyard, Mr. Lewis, and she asked him if he knew of someone who would clean up Bob's plot. After some thought, he said that there was a young man, Fred, who would be able to do it. So Sarah gave Mr. Lewis an adequate amount of money to pay Fred. Sarah went to the convention for a couple of weeks, and she returned to visit Bob's plot. It surprised Sarah because nothing was done with Bob's plot. It was the same as it was when she left it. So she asked Mr. Lewis what happened. Did she give him enough money to have Fred clean up the plot? Mr. Lewis said that he would find out what happened. A day later, Mr. Lewis told Sarah there was an accident. Bob saw a small girl. Bob is dead. How is Bob seeing a small girl? Bob is dead.
Well, can I also point out if when she came back weeks later, it was just as it was when she left it, that means somebody had to be cutting the grass around it for those weeks. Otherwise, it would be far more overgrown.
Yep, that is a good point. Okay. Bob saw a small girl about to be hit by a large truck, and he rushed out and pushed the small girl out of the way of the truck. I think Bob's a zombie now.
I think this is proof he can't keep his own cast characters straight.
She was not injured, but Bob is at the hospital in a coma.
Bob's dead. What?
I think he means Fred.
Oh, okay.
Fred is the one that was supposed to be cleaning up the grave, and I think he
No,
got mixed up on his characters.
no. Fred exhumed the body and reanimated him.
Okay. Okay.
It
That's what
was
all the money was spent on.
he only died 3 days ago. It's okay.
A little later, Sarah visited Bob in the hospital, and while she was there, a girl peeked in the door and she asked, "Was Sarah Fred's wife?" And Sarah said that she was not Bob's wife because she was not married. Sarah asked the girl, Anne, was she with her family and what was her interest in Bob? Anne said that she was the girl that Bob saved, and she didn't have a family. She lived in a group of foster families. Well, Sarah, being a Christian, started working to adopt Anne, and she visited Bob often. After much work, Sarah was able to adopt Anne, and the day that Sarah was told Anne was now her daughter, Bob woke up from his coma. It's a miracle.
He must have been listening.
He must have been what?
Listening.
Yeah, I guess
No,
so.
I think it just proves that kids cause such a ruckus, nobody can sleep through it regardless.
There we go. Not even the dead. Later, Sarah, in her big house, just looked at her family consisting of Anne reading a book and Bob reading a novel and her. She felt wonderful with her family. Freud says that people wish to invent religion for their emotional needs and to not be held accountable. But the truth is that atheism offers no accountability because if there is no God, there is no one watching them. Well, yeah, but that's not how accountability works. But there is a God, and he knows our needs and fills them with blessings. Today, atheism and none people who are unsure there is a God, is the fastest growing religion. And what is happening to us? Moral destruction. In the 20th century, it was the atheists in charge, Stalin, Hitler, etc., and they caused the death of over 500 million people. Ideas have consequences. A David Belinsky book reads, an old Jewish man was digging his own grave, and his exterminator, a SS Nazi soldier, was watching him and to kill him. Once he finished, as the old man finished, he stood straight by his shovel and said to the Nazi, God is watching you. But the Nazi killed him. God was certainly watching all the Nazis. Mike Ladra. Okay, well, if God was watching all the Nazis, why didn't he do anything?
Yeah, why did it take him 4 years for ending the war?
Mm-hmm.
It's I would love to know what this guy actually does for a living.
Yeah, I think this guy is a missionary. I think he's either retired and he just does this in his spare time because he's retired, or he receives mission support to do what he's doing.
It would seem strange for them to send someone who doesn't speak English to be a missionary in the US.
Yeah, that's true. But then again, if maybe they're a Korean congregation or something like that, maybe he's the best they had.
True. Yeah, maybe he was the only one who could read English.
Liam Wakefield says, we are all Bob, and Bob is all of us. And You Are Victoria asks, I wonder if Fred had anything to do with Bob's boat accident.
Well,
I really enjoy it. That's
Yeah, that was fun. Okay.
sometimes in place of oh my God, I just say Bob, which is actually an acronym for by Odin's beard.
Oh, I didn't know that. You know, my grandson's name is Odin.
No, I didn't know that.
Well, his real name is Doyle McGillis the Fourth. I'm sorry, Doyle Gillis the Fourth, but he goes by Odin.
Okay.
Hi, Godless.
I think that it should be a normal rite of passage in our society
Hmm.
that, like, when the person is a teenager, like maybe 16, that they get to choose the name they will be known by for their adult life.
Hmm. Hmm. That is kind of sort of a tradition in the Catholic Church that when they are confirmed,
Yeah.
they get to pick a new name for themselves, but they don't necessarily go by that name.
Yeah, no, it's generally a middle name. I am the only member of my immediate family who was never confirmed.
Mm, okay. Zhang Fukusheng, religion destroyer, points out Hitler was Christian. Stalin was educated in an Orthodox seminary. The SS were all Christians.
Daramo, Odin is the All Father. He is the father of all things, and therefore he is the father of all of us. So, doesn't have to be my uncle. But I know what you mean though about Bob's your uncle.
Mhm.
Well, then that means Odin is the god of God.
Yep. Well, Odin is the father of all the gods.
Yeah, yeah. So so God has to have a god who happens to be Odin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that explains the whole thing that Yahweh spoke the universe into existence, but how did Yahweh get there? Well, Yahweh was one of Odin's illegitimate sons, of which he had many.
Okay. A bastard son.
Yep,
Those
that's why the
bastards.
Norse mythology doesn't acknowledge him because he was the bastard son.
God,
Mm, mm.
talk about ruining your reputation. Wow.
Well, you know how the old gods were. Look at the Greek and Roman gods. I mean, they were doing some really bizarre stuff just to get with any woman they thought was cute.
Well, look what they did to they did to all those people in Rome. You see all the statues all over the place, and these people have no arms. It's like, why would you do that, God? It's
Okay, that was the last one that I had. So we've got about 20 minutes to just chat at this point. So how are things with you, Purple?
Well, like I said, I'm really excited because Friday I get my top surgery done, which
Nice.
was just because the surgeon had a cancellation. Otherwise, I was going to be waiting until sometime next summer.
Okay, nice, nice.
So I'm getting boobies for Christmas. Mommy and sis will be mad, but I'm getting boobies for Christmas, like I always wished I had had.
You're gonna titty up.
Yep.
Kyle
Yeah.
Silver, get titty up. That's,
This is one of the things that my sister has been vehemently against. She keeps telling me not to do anything permanent in case I want to go back.
yeah, it's I that's one of my least favorite things for these idiots to have to listen to them say. It's like, dude, shut up, just shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up and leave.
It's taken me 3.5 years of constant paperwork to get to this point. I mean,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
I normally would not put out that much effort for anything.
What's the date that they have it scheduled for?
This Friday, the
This
27th.
Friday. Okay, very
Yep.
good, very good.
Yeah, that's
Um,
why Sloth Girl's son is going to come and stay with me for a week, as I'm recovering from the surgery.
mhm. Okay, good. I'm glad you
I'm
have someone coming to stay with you.
I'm glad you're getting in under the Nazi regime.
Yeah, that was what I was worried about, was that, that they may be doing away with this.
Yeah, well, that is likely to be more of an issue by the time I can get set up for bottom surgery. I'm still working through all of the insurance stuff for that.
Frankly, I think they're gonna be too busy with things that they consider more important to really worry about this. I'm
Well,
dreaming.
Yeah, yeah. The 21st is going to be a momentous day.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you.
well, I they will be stalled because there already so much infighting about Trump's cabinet picks.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's going to at least slow them down.
And I think they're going to be much more focused on the economy, education, and healthcare.
Mhm.
And as much as there was in the news about transgender people were, I think, a convenient target, because it was easy to pick on transgender people as a group, as a
Yeah,
political ploy, but I don't think the Republicans care enough to actually do anything. Now, the Heritage Foundation people, absolutely, they're
yeah.
they're gonna be pushing for it, but I'm thinking Trump is gonna be telling them, "I've got more important things to do."
Well, I think they may get some of it done in the background, but yeah, for the as far as the election went, I think for the Republicans it was more that it was a useful distraction so they didn't have to talk about actual policies.
Right, exactly,
But
exactly.
just because so many people from the Heritage Foundation are going to wind up with positions in Trump's cabinet, that they're going to be able to do some things, that he won't even be aware of.
You think so? I mean,
Yeah.
who do you know of anyone specifically that, he's got targeted for cabinet positions that's in Heritage Foundation?
I would have to. I'm really bad with names, so I would have to
Okay,
go and check that.
okay.
But I know a few had already come up, and he's basically already appointing someone who wants to dismantle the Department of Health.
Yeah, yeah, there's no question about that. Zhang Fukusheng says, "I doubt I'll be visiting the United States in the next 4 years." I don't blame you. I think this place is going to be a dumpster fire for the next 4 years. The real question, the big question is going to be, will there be a 2028 election? Or will Trump find a way to destroy it and turn us into more of a Russian system where there's no real election, where there are no more fair and free elections?
Well, I'm kind of worried about that, but um, most people don't realize that elections are never really handled at a federal level. Elections
Mm.
are handled by each state, which is why the rules for who can vote vary from state to state.
Mhm, mhm.
Now, however, once it gets beyond the popular vote, though, when with the electoral college and that, they may be able to warp that.
Okay, okay.
So they may be able to do things to prevent the electoral college from following with the popular vote.
Okay, Ember has just, put up a list here for us. This is a list of fortnight old, but it's a lot of heritage hacks. Okay, that's worth looking into. Heritage Foundation people that Trump is supporting. Thank you,
Uh,
Ember.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
and with the Project 2025 ties, those are
Mhm.
the real scary ones because they definitely want to turn us into a Christian theocracy based on their version of the Bible. And that's the other thing I think they're going to run into at some point.
They,
Is if
they, well, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jenny.
No. They, Christian nationalism has absolutely nothing to do with Christ or religion or anything. It has to
Mhm.
do with taking over of a governmental structure
Yep.
and making it into an authoritarian state for the
Yep.
oligarchs.
Yep.
Okay, that is what's going on, and you don't give them the credibility of it being a religion. It's not. It's just not. It has never been. It never will be.
Yeah.
The same ploy has been. Um, I gotta stop. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm not saying it is a legitimate religion, but that's the problem they're going to run into at some point. That you know, if they start passing things based on a religious doctrine, then there's going to be more infighting about, hey, are we doing this based on the Presbyterians or based on the evangelicals? So they're going to have more infighting on whose Bible they're going to go by.
They'll just name it American Christianity and tell everybody this is how it's going to work. You got to get this voting stuff out of your head. That's not going to happen anymore.
Well, then we may need to have a revolution.
Yeah. Scummer says, I think Trump will have a harder time than Putin had with turning the U.S. into a dictatorship. Yeltsin already did a lot of the groundwork for Putin beforehand.
Yeah. Well, and the U.S. has the more unique thing, about these states having, certain established powers. So there are things that the federal government can't do because it's already established that they're states' rights.
Left-handed Jedi says, how long before they boot Trump and put Vance in charge?
I think that'll happen before summer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
really?
I'm sure that's going to happen in the spring. That once he's sworn in, I think he will have outlived his usefulness to them. And they'll look for the first chance to get rid of him.
I agree.
Vance was handpicked by Peter Thiel, the guy from Heritage Foundation. Peter Thiel handpicked J.D. Vance.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, and apparently it was Trump's sons who convinced him to take him as his running mate, even though most of the high-ups in the RNC said that was a bad idea.
Okay. The thing that I'm thinking, though, is that even though that's going to be what they want to do, Trump has a lot of personal power, and there's a lot of people that are very afraid of him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to go willingly.
No, that's what I mean, that they're going to have to look for the right opportunity, that they can, like, say he's having health issues or something like that.
Right.
So it looks like they're retiring him graciously so that his base doesn't revolt on them.
I predict that they're going to use his behavior in the campaign over the last 6 to 8 months, and the absolute insanity that he was developing, and how it started at one point and ended up 10 floors below.
Well, see, they could legitimately do that, but that is going to infuriate the MAGA crowd and turn them against the Republicans.
Yeah, Left-handed Jedi, absolutely. Article 14 is the way they'll do it. I saw something on Blue Sky today, and I haven't had a chance to verify it, so I don't know if this is true or if this is just a meme that someone posted. But someone posted that Trump said that the United States and Italy have been allies since the time of ancient Rome, and they showed a picture of the translator looking at him like, what? I don't know if that really happened, but that was
funny. I did see something on that and a short video clip of it with the translator.
So that really did happen, huh?
Yeah. Let us remember that Italy has the distinction of being the only country to have switched sides during both world wars.
A little known fact.
Yeah, so in both cases, they started out as our enemies, and when they were losing, then they decided to be our allies.
Well, okay, then they're at least consistent that way.
They're pragmatic.
Yep.
They're pragmatic. You've got more tanks than we do, so now we're your friend.
Okay, Limited Light said he can't find me on Blue Sky Social, so I just posted my Blue Sky Social handle
Oh,
in the chat there for left-handed or no for who was it? Now I can't remember who it was. Limited Light. Limited Light wanted it. There we go.
okay. Well, I stand corrected. Ember has a link to a Snoops article saying that it was false.
Oh, okay. Okay. Bye, skeptics and scoundrels. Thanks for listening. We're almost done here anyway.
Yep, we're going to Nick Suter in a few minutes here.
Yep. Yeah, next stream is Nick Suter, and Nick is the link to Nick's stream is pinned in the chat. So if you want to just run right to the next one, it's right there and makes it easy for you to take off that way.
Okay, but if you got here through the master playlist, it will automatically roll you over to Nick Suter's stream as soon as Granny ends this.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
That was the whole idea with the master playlist, that it was a way to get around that some channels couldn't do the forwarding.
Ah, okay.
So I found a hack on YouTube that worked.
Okay. Well, that's really good. That's helpful.
Yeah, the playlist has gotten thrown a few times when there were last minute changes, when we had people who weren't able to stream at their designated time. But if that ever happens, you can always go back to the playlist and just click on whichever link it's currently showing as live, and it'll bring it back, get you back in line for it.
Okay, Ember has clarified a bit. Trump did say, he remarked that the two countries have shared cultural and political heritage dating back thousands of years.
Yeah.
He is an idiot, in case there was any doubt.
Well, yes, that's the U.S. has not had any relations with other countries for thousands of years because we haven't existed that long.
No, we have not.
Oh, details.
Well, unless you accept the idea that the Vikings made it to North America and were trading with the indigenous people here.
Okay.
I just want to know how much money the Defense Department gave Samaria.
Tsunami asks, was he thinking of England? Possibly.
Thinking?
Good point. Trump is a moron.
I don't know. He may have the concept that England is one of the U.S. states, but
I never took him for an imperialist. No, I'm real surprised that he really seems to be going in that direction.
He seems to be making a real play for wanting to annex Canada and Greenland.
Yeah.
And he's talked about Mexico as well.
Oh, really? He wants Mexico too?
He wants everything down to Panama to take control of the canal.
Okay. I thought he hated Mexico.
That's why he wants to control it.
Okay.
Well, but see, if he annexes Mexico, then he eliminates the immigrant problem while still having people who they can bring up here to, pay just a couple bucks a day to do the stuff that Americans refuse to do.
Well, he can't complain about illegal immigrants anymore.
Yep.
They'll all be legal.
Mm-hmm. It's like no tax on overtime because there's not going to be any overtime.
Mm-hmm.
I think Overtime is one of Nick Suter's shows.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I think Overtime is one of Nick Suter's shows.
Yes, it is.
And I think we have you went on early, didn't you?
Yeah, I started a minute early. I was thinking the same thing, that it was time for me to close up, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's right. I started a minute and a half early.
Yep. Well, by my clock, you got 2 minutes left. So, any final thoughts?
Hope everyone is having a great day and hope we were able to bring a smile to your face. Jenny?
Works for me.
Yep.
I haven't had a laugh like that in a long time. Thank you.
Yep.
Good.
Good Jewel doll. Yeah, and that's really what I was hoping to do with this marathon was, just have a thing to cheer people up if they were home alone or if they needed to de-stress after having a holiday with some people that they could barely tolerate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like this comment from Godless Scummer before we close off. If I can get my mouse isn't working very well. There we go. Okay. Mexico should have offered to pay for Trump's wall, provided it was based on the pre-1848 borders.
Yep. And for those who aren't clear on history, that means that they get back most of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
Nevada, and the southern third of California, which means Los Angeles would no longer be part of the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's not a bad idea at all.
Or southern third of California. I said that wrong.
Okay, we are out of time. It is time to move over to Nick Suter's stream. And
Okay,
thank
let
you
me
all.
check if he is running yet.
Okay. Let me know. I'll keep going until you let me know.
Yeah. I got too many tabs open to find the right one.
Junie, I think what they're concentrating on is redefining full-time employment, and so that they can put everybody on 39 hours instead of 40, and nobody gets benefits.
Okay. In Time has their intro music playing, but they have a countdown timer running that is still staying close to 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So we'll keep going for about another 2 minutes. Ember says Nick is live, but I think Ember just means that Nick has the countdown timer going.
Yeah, well, I just clicked over there, and like I say, it's just the timer running and some music right now.
Okay.
Scummer says he just started.
He might also mean that he started his countdown timer. I'm not sure.
Well, come on, Scummer, tell us what you mean. Come on.
Liam says In Time has 3 intros.
Oh, really?
Okay. Well, I thought so because it's just a static screen, and I'm used to an animated intro that had the clocks and gears and things going.
It's hilarious to me how long some channels will make their intro. That it's just such a moment of personal glorification for them that they want to go on for minutes.
Well,
you guys, don't you realize that most TV shows entry is like 20 seconds, maybe? This 5-minute stuff is not necessary.
I was actually thinking of that as a format for a show. That if we have a 20-minute intro and we spend 20 minutes thanking our supporters and have a 20-minute outro, we'll have an hour show without having to worry about a topic.
No content. You can call it the no content show.
There's a BBC program. God, oh shit, what's it?
Okay, Nick is live on the screen.
Oh, okay, I'll be quiet.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Jenny and Purple, for helping me out.
Glad to. Anytime.
Always a pleasure.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.